All right, y'all. That was an oldie but goodie. That used to be our intro so long ago. I haven't seen that one in a while. Very nostalgic. Made me feel good. I got the little cognac and the hat and the little jazz playing. It's awesome. Welcome everyone. This is the best hour of your week. It is tipping points and puzzle pieces. Oh yeah, we're gonna have a good one today. But I don't do this alone. So we have the astounding, the astonishing, the extraordinary, remarkable wonders. Oh, the prodigious, phenomenal Mark Boatwright-Frost. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, but that reminded me that I need to get some flash paper so that when I come on, I can go and do the little flames out of the hands.
That would be pretty awesome. So
Yeah,
how you feeling?
stupendous. Poof. I, I'm doing pretty good. Lot of stuff's going on. We put out a little bit of a teaser a while back about a potential event in the spring of next year that you and I have been working on in the background. And
Mhm.
yesterday we had a meeting, and that took another step forward. So now
Oh,
we're waiting to hear if there's will to host this from an entity in the county. If we hear that, then we can go forward full speed.
all right. All right. Well, well wishes and prayers to that effort. I'm glad to hear that went pretty good. I'm excited
It
to
it,
get the
it, it
details
was an
on it.
interesting meeting. It was good. I learned a bunch of stuff, and
Mm,
so now we just have to see if there's an awareness of how good this could be for them.
got you. So you sounds like you walked away feeling encouraged.
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay. Good, good. I like it. Progress is important. Uh, and we talk about this every week. And so what I would say here is definitely a testament to your resiliency, if you will, and
I see what you did
continuing
there.
to continuing to advocate, right? Because it's hard.
Yep,
You're pushing the boulder uphill for sure, right?
yep.
So I
Sisyphus.
appreciate that.
Yeah, we're doing the
Yeah.
Sisyphus thing. Um, Sometimes I feel like Atlas with the earth on my shoulders, but it's mostly Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill and waiting to get to the top so I can let it go down the other side and just say, "Look out below."
Now say that name again, because I heard syphilis, and I don't think that's what you meant.
No, Sisyphus.
Syphilis. Okay. All right.
Sisyphus.
So for
And I
those
believe
of us
that's
that
that's who it
didn't have
is.
what's that Greek philosophy class,
Yep.
um, you
Mythology,
know,
mythology. Yeah.
mythology. All
Yep.
right. Oh, that's awesome. See, I
And
learned a new word today. It is not syphilis, everyone. It is syphilis. What did you say? Snuffleupagus?
sis, a
Sis,
fis,
a
a
fist.
fis,
A
Sisyphus.
sis with a fist.
Yeah.
Sisyphus. Oh, look at
Yeah.
that. I got it. Sisyphus. All right.
Yep.
See, phonetical, right? Sis,
Yep.
oh, fist. Like that.
So
Sisyphus.
there you go.
And so Sisyphus
Um,
was pushing the boulder uphill.
yes, it was his trial by the gods to push the boulder uphill and never end. In this
I
case,
never
I'm
knew
hoping
that.
there's a point. Yeah, I hope there's a
Yeah.
point at this that I will be able to push it over the edge.
I never knew the origin to that. So I love learning new things. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
same, which is why I have all this weird knowledge in my head. So we're talking about boxes today,
Okay.
and as you see, I have boxes over here, or over here rather. I'm still not used to the mirror thing. We have boxes that we have politics in. We have boxes
Mhm.
that we have religion in. We have boxes that we put inequality in. We put people in boxes saying, you are not good enough because of your gender, you're not good enough because of your race, you're not good enough because of where you were born, and you're not going to get to climb the ladder because of this. We have, of
Mm,
course, racism over on this side that is another box that we put people in because of their skin color, um, and all the other alternatives that go with racism. And then down below here, which you cannot this way that you cannot see on the bottom, is wealth and the issue with wealth and wealth inequality, and that we look at everything as money based first, and then we never ever actually get to looking at the human thing. And because we do all of this, we have the homeless gentleman here who's wondering what the hell happened and how come he's not in a home anymore.
mm,
But here's the
right.
thing, we get put in boxes. I mean, all of these are boxes we get put in. We get put in because we're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, or we are put in because we're a one religion or another. And if you think about those boxes, each having little containers like you do when you move and you put glasses in them for each of those different things, keeping us separate. And we keep this is another way of looking at what many people say is othering. We other people so that the people who have control can maintain control. And these are the ways that they do this. But here's the sad part: we put ourselves in boxes. We label ourselves and put ourselves in boxes. And once you're in a box, you don't generally get to learn new things. What you see is the inside of the box.
Interesting. And what do you see on the inside of the box?
A box wall. And if you're lucky and you're looking out one of those little holes in the end, you can see a very skewed small piece of the world. And you think that's the world because that's what you
Mm,
see. But that
mm-hmm.
small piece may be a pebble on a beach, but you never see the beach or the ocean or the mountains behind it or any of the other beautiful things that are out there. And so you are seeing a very small portion, and that's all you know. So when you talk about, when we talk about things, and I'm guilty of this as anyone else, is thinking about people being stupid or ignorant or this or the other. The fact is, they don't have the opportunity to see. And there was a conversation, and I'm going to use that B word again. Bo did a show, and I want to mention it because he talked about paywalls. Now, I don't know if you know this because I don't know if you follow enough, but he never puts anything on the Patreon paywall. Everything of his, every tweet, everything he does is wide out in the open. But his people use Patreon to support him, even though he puts nothing behind there. I mean, there's no special treat for Bo that you get there like there are, because Patreon was basically designed for artists to sell their wares. And so therefore the people support, they get special stuff.
Oh, okay.
And in truth, that's very much like resilient ecosystems. Resilient ecosystems doesn't put anything behind the paywall either because it's important for people to know. But here's the reason why, and this is what he was talking about because he was answering a question. All of our predominant media are behind paywalls.
Mm,
I can't read articles from the New York Times without subscribing to the New York Times. I can't
mm.
read articles from the LA Times without subscribing to the LA Times, the Boston Globe, the Wall Street Journal. The All of them are behind paywalls. So all of our reliable media information is behind a paywall that people may or may not be able to afford. I mean, think about the primary papers you want to know things, you want to get things from. You'd be paying $300-400 a year to get access to them. A lot of people don't have $300 or $400 a year to do that. But I will tell you one thing that is free: all of the misinformation all over the web, instant free access to it. Do you wonder
Facts.
about people looking through the holes and seeing little bits and that's all they get? Because there is no bigger window to see a larger piece and they don't have access to it.
Hmm.
So boxes are more than just ways we label people, ways we other people. This is the way we keep people from learning. This is the way we keep people from connecting with each other, connecting to the larger world. And it's all based on wealth and cost and availability. You can't get the information unless you can afford to buy it. It's just one more piece of the puzzle of the puzzle we want to tear down and rebuild, that keeps us from coming together and being human. And as long as we're focused on all of this stuff, then we don't pay attention to the fact that it's doing the damage to this gentleman over here. And that we're all in line to become just like him at some point.
Well, how do we navigate out of the box?
Well, we have to first know we're in a box. What was it, the saying that Aaron Sorkin wrote in his beautiful drama he wrote? In order to solve a problem, first you got to know you have one. In order to get out of the box, you first got to recognize that you're in one. And since all of us are in the process of living our lives and just trying to get by, we don't even know we're in a box.
Well, then let me ask you that. How do we even recognize that we're in a box? That I get your point, right? And
Mhm.
I was just having this conversation with the pastor earlier. Shout out to the pastor uh, about, and I think I was also in this conversation with Rob. Shout out to Rob. But you have to, it's like with addiction, right? The first step is admitting that you have a problem, right? But
Yep.
how do you recognize that you have a problem? An addiction might be a little bit easier to recognize assumptively. Obviously, it's not. Uh, but to be inside of a box, there's comfort a lot of times in a box, right? It's what you know. You can't see anything else, so it's your perspective. So how do we become self-aware to say, "Hey, I'm in a situation that's not good. How do I get that awareness and say, man, I'm in a box. I need to get out of this box." How do we do that?
So we teach people. And that again is, thank you for the run into the plug for this Saturday's workshop at KRL downtown Bremerton on Fifth Street. We will be starting the process or continuing the process of teaching people about boxes, how we got here, and how to get out of boxes. And a lot of it has to do with looking at ourselves and our own stuff. But a lot of it has to do is being able to let go of a lot of our preconceived notions to listen to what other people have to say. And it's a process. And we'll go back to the numbers. I guess I can't repeat these numbers often enough. 80% of the people won't ever know that they're in a box, even though 20% of those people are feeling completely pressured and about to explode from being in a box. They don't really realize they're in one and they don't realize how to get out of it. But 20% of the people know that there's a box and they need to get out. The trick is getting to those people. Now let's go back to the paywall conversation. Every form of communication we have is limited due to the algorithms. Facebook only allows 10% of the people that are friends of mine that I send out to
Mhm.
actually see things. Then you have the overwhelm of Facebook where people get messages all the time and never read them anymore. Unless they're short blurbs of 4 sentences. Twitter has become a whole new thing that we just are issuing with, are learning to deal with. Instagram, I get more sex pitches from Instagram than any real messages or conversations. And all of the other social media streams are limiting, mainstream social media are limiting conversations. And a lot of it's to do with generating capital and and ad revenue. And that's a whole different conversation we could have at some point. Um, but really, what it's about is that we saw Arab Spring happen because of Twitter and because of Facebook. What no one talks about is the fact that the limitations on those platforms have become tighter and tighter and tighter until I wonder if that could ever happen again. Things
Mm.
going viral don't happen anymore. That's just, I mean, I watched a show the other day and says, well, let's make this viral. And a couple of kids start punching it out. But the fact is that can't happen because of the algorithms. It's limiting the social media. So we need a new social media platform. We need a new way to communicate, and it doesn't exist.
I would kind of push back on that a little bit. I think there
Okay.
things still go viral all the time. I don't think it's necessarily productive things that go viral. I think you talk about the paywall. I think there are forces, whatever those forces may be, those people. um,
Them.
capitalism, whatever,
Yeah.
them, the cabal, you
Yeah.
know,
The
it,
Illuminati. Let's call it what it is.
the Illuminati. Let's go way deep down the rabbit hole. But whatever is been created that operates the machine and keeps the machine going dictates what information comes out, right? Kind of to your
Right.
point. Um, so peace and love doesn't really get pushed out. War, divisiveness, drama, strife, those things get pushed out. So I think things go viral all the time. It's just not the good viral.
Yeah, and a lot of that's being pushed out by people on that have agendas to push that out. And to go back to the powers to be that run the machine, is the machine runs itself now. It really does. There's no one really in control, but it has these policies and practices that co-opt ideas and kill ideas. So the only way, the point I was going to make is the only way we can really get around this is to go back to being face to face and building relationships face to face and human. And we have been pushed
Elaborate,
away
please,
from that.
sir.
Yeah, we've been pushed away from that. We fear each other. We're all in boxes. So going over to your next door neighbor. Oh my God, he may not be in the same box as me. I'm afraid to talk to him because he may disagree with me, and then it may show that. And here's the fear part: that I don't know what I'm talking about. Or
Yeah.
it might puncture the balloon that's my box, and then I'd have to be afraid because of that. So you have to find a way to do it that does not trigger that reaction with people. And to do that, you have to kind of go outside the box and be very careful to tread lightly until you build trust with somebody and can have real conversations. And you even then you don't want to have conversations about their religious or political practices or any of that. You want to have conversations about human commonality. And if we can stay to that, we can build an entire network of people focused on their humanity and not on
Hmm.
what's in the boxes. And it's tricky. And you have to learn how to do it because we aren't taught that anymore, if we ever were. And I've put 20 years into figuring out what that looks like. And that's why we do the classes.
That's fascinating. Uh, so I would say, on my own part, to play in that, one of the reasons why I talk to so many different people that I do, I like getting different perspectives, and
Mhm.
I think that's really important. I just had this conversation yesterday. I was at an election party, and I was saying, if you don't have conversations with other people, how are you going to ever change the situation? And somebody has to step over the bridge first. Someone has to extend their hand first. So while we're waiting for the other person to extend their hand, we're not getting anywhere. So someone just has to cross the bridge. And it's like, all right, well, we tell kids all the time, like, well, you have to be growing up. This is what you need to do. Treat each other how you want to be treated. But adults, we tend to not, take our own advice to our own children. Um, and we do have a lot more things in common than we do separate. And some of the things
Mhm.
that we separate on, I mean, they're big issues. Like, all right, so let's work on the things we do agree on, and let's agree that we're not going to punish each other for the big things that we don't agree with, and let's solve these things. Right? We all agree that no one should be hungry. Um, we agree that everyone should have health care, not on how health care is administered and who should pay for it and those things, but we agree with that. So let's work on the things that we do agree on, and just put the other stuff to the side. When we come to that
Exactly
piece,
so.
hey,
Hey, there, here,
I'm
there's a
go
handy
ahead.
box for it. We can put that stuff in a handy box
There's a box
so we
for
can
it.
have a conversation.
Well, I mean, but it's facts, right? And
Yeah.
eventually we'll get there, but there are some bigger things that we can solve. And as we navigate those things, I think it makes it easier to handle the hard things in those really heavy boxes that are full of traps.
And some
But
of the
like you
things
said,
in the
someone has to be willing to do it.
absolutely, and part of the things we teach in the classes, in the workshops, if you go through the workshop series, we're teaching you to be an ambassador. We're
Mhm.
teaching you the tools to put your hand out first and not be afraid to have a conversation. more importantly, how to have a conversation that keeps stuff in the boxes and gets to the stuff that's important about building a relationship.
There was something pretty big that happened in this country yesterday. Did you want to talk about that?
Oh, God, so much has been said. I actually wrote a kind of an intro to the class yesterday, and I put it on several sites. And some of you may have seen it, some did not. Most did not, probably because Facebook only allows 10% of the people to see my stuff. And a couple of sites did not like the fact that I talked about voting and politics, even though I never mentioned a party or a candidate or anything else. I just said, while you're thinking about this, why don't you think about, are you voting for someone or are you voting against someone?
Would you mind if I read what you wrote?
Sure, go ahead.
Good, that's what
Do
you
you have
sent
it
me,
up?
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna share this and I'm gonna read it. And
Yeah.
so I
Be
thought this
careful.
is what we
Beware
were
that.
gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Beware.
Beware that the spacing on that because it went in Messenger, the spacing got blown to hell. So just kind of like be aware that the spacing's weird.
Oh, no worries. My reading can be choppy. I'll definitely butcher this.
Okay.
But this was intriguing to me. So this was yesterday, right?
Hmm.
And so this is what Mark sent to me. And this is what you're saying. You also posted on Facebook. As we vote today or do not, we could reflect on a few questions. Are you voting for someone or against someone? I thought that was really interesting. And I think I voted for someone. And I'm actually going to reveal some of my voting statistics,
Yep.
which I know a lot of people do. It's like a super private and taboo, but I'm all good with that.
Yep. And
Where
and to
is
be
all
honest, I
the
voted I voted both for someone and against someone. So
Oh, thank you for that. All right. Well, let me ask you this without going into who or what the topic was. Why did you vote against someone?
um, because I wasn't crazy about either candidate. But one candidate had information in their pamphlet that made me not feel that they would be best representing the people. So I voted
Mm,
against them as opposed to for the other person.
got you. Okay. Where is all the rhetoric? Is anything approaching
Well, sorry, that's
humanity?
supposed to be where it's supposed to be where in all the rhetoric, and
Oh, where in all
just
the
yeah.
rhetoric is anything approaching humanity?
Think about
Hmm.
all the things that
Can
we get told
you
in politics. So everybody's talking about, all of this stuff. Then you just kind of go, what are they really talking about?
Mhm.
I mean, where in here is anything focusing on Native humanity? Are they talking about actual fixing homelessness? Are they talking about affordable income or affordable housing? Are they talking about looking at the problems with income disparity? Are they looking? None of that is ever mentioned in a race. It becomes a popularity show about what party you're with, what bullet points you put out about bland, but never talks about a plan. It never talks about how you're going to
Mm.
fix serious problems. You and I have been working diligently on homeless issues for months and looking at what they are from different perspectives, but we are working and on the same problem in different places. I didn't see anything in any of the politics that talked about our humanity, our failing infrastructure, Cascadia Rising, climate change, the things that risk our lives on a daily basis, um, the fact that the law enforcement is not equal in this county, um, and that some people get more law enforcement applied to them than others do. There are lots of things here that could have been talked about that are actual problems for the majority of the county that were never talked about. So, where in all the rhetoric is actual speaking of humanity and human needs? Does that clarify that?
Yeah, it does. And I just wanted to pull up humanity to define it here, and definition too. I
Hmm.
really like, right? Humaneness, benevolence. Example, he praised them for their standards of humanity, care, and dignity. Synonyms: compassion, brotherly love, fellow feeling, humaneness, kindness, kind-heartedness, understanding, sympathy, tolerance, goodness, good-heartedness, gentleness, leniency, mercy, mercifulness, pity, tenderness, benevolence, charity, generosity, magnanimity. Wow, you know,
Mhm.
that was a
Yeah,
very
like right out of
interesting way to run a campaign.
yeah, right out of the Bible saying, love your brother. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I like that. When demonizing a political party, either party, do you consider the people
or
who
supposed
are supposedly represented by their party?
I mean, we talk about, we look at the big things and we demonize the group, but, you know, I've never met a demon that was part of a political party. And I know lots of people who look at politics from lots of party lenses. Libertarians, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and I've never found a single demon among them. So when we demonize the group, where's the humanity again? I mean, why do we think that somebody who votes Republican is evil? They aren't, by and large.
I must be evil.
You know, People who vote Democrat are evil because they're trying to give everything away. I mean, you demonize without understanding the humanity or the need. Again, I'm
I
bringing it
must be
back down to
evil.
need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been evil on several occasions too. So I found it interesting, speaking directly to the um, um, election, the maintain repeal of 39 and 40. I noticed that it are all being repealed, but I wonder how many people actually, because I looked at my voter pamphlet and there was literally nothing in the voter pamphlet that actually gave me any real information about either one of them. So I actually went and read the intro to the laws, the summary of the laws in the law itself. And I
Mhm.
found nothing in there to repeal. I thought that they were both well thought out and applied. But I wonder how many people actually looked at that, or whether they just said, "Oh, it's a tax, repeal it." And it's
Did
just
I
like
I think I
and I asked the
read
question.
on air yesterday, but I don't remember.
Yeah, the aviation fuel tax and
Mhm.
the basically the target is straight at Uber, allowing them, making them create a wow, labor and industries claims, being able to allow them workers' comp
Yeah.
claims.
I'm pretty sure I did read that, and that packed G too, right? 15 cents
Yeah,
per ride, and that adds up because we do
yeah,
thousands of rides in a year.
yeah, it does. But G2 is getting impacted because Uber takes advantage of it.
Right. Absolutely.
So here we go back again. And do you wonder where your representation in the whole process? It goes back to the first three questions. Where are we represented? Who represents us? And I've said this before. I've known many politicians that have basically been a politician their entire life. They've never actually worked at McDonald's or a regular job, never had to stress about making payments or whatever. How do they represent the 46% of the people, or the 151 million people who are one paycheck away from homelessness?
Mm.
How are they representing us when they're not talking about affordable housing or figuring out how to make affordable housing real? Um, I was having a conversation with someone the other day who explained to me that in Kitsap County, the average mean income, according to the federal government, for a family of four was $102,000. How many people do you know, or how many families do you know that are making $102,000?
Interesting.
So the federal government rate is based on market rate, as far as I could tell, as much as the manipulated market rate is. People in this county
Hmm.
can't afford $1,600 to $2,000 rents. And yet, that is the average rent. That is the majority of the rents. So, where is our representation? Where, I mean, the corporations, the realtors, the developers are all represented. Where are the people represented? Where are the people who are working and providing services represented? So those are things to think about while you're voting. You won't find any answers, but they're questions that need to be asked.
Ask yourself these questions. You're not gonna find any answers. Oh, that tickled my funny bone. Sorry about that. Let me read this thing and get your thoughts on the other
Okay.
side of this. I voted my entire life. This is Mark I'm quoting here. I have not
Yeah.
voted for a single party, but for people who best represent me, as far as I can tell. I've only voted for President one reservation. That was my very first election, and it was for Carter. You are old. History has shown that I was right to feel that way. History has also shown I was right in all my reservations since. My daughter called me before this election to discuss the choices and I explained to her for the referendums I needed to go to the actual bill and read the summary since the state voter pamphlet, as you were saying, did not contain sufficient information to make an informed decision. This was the easy part of our conversation. She was seeking my input because I have met and talked to many of the candidates, and your daughter's about 24, correct?
2025. Yeah.
25. She wanted more than the
Dan.
vague, flowery, more than the flowery statements in the pamphlets. She wanted a sense if these were good people and would represent her. As I sit here, I wish I had better answers to give. Our system is broken. We all know this and respond in our own ways. Getting real, we need to come together and agree to fix it, to talk until we hear each other, to find commonality, to build relationships, to be willing to become a candidate for the people. It is past time to get this process going for ourselves, our family, our community, and our future. I know that you do not believe you have the will, the ability, the resources, whatever, to be part of any change. I assure you that you do. Fear and the belief that you cannot bring enough stops you from taking a step. The point is that you are not alone. No matter how much our media, corporation, politicians, and churches imply that you are. Not fingers at one group or another, one person or another. All are guilty of this. I'm inviting you to learn, to connect, to become part of change, to be part of a movement that can change the entire broken system over time by engaging one neighborhood at a time. Join us this Saturday at the Kitsap Regional Library downtown, which is the M.L. King Library, workshop on how to change the world. Hear what we have to say. Tell us what you hear and what you need. And if we see the value, and if you see the come back to the next workshop. It costs you nothing but some time. Give us your thoughts on that. That was a very powerful statement you said.
I
Thank you for being so active.
I can't really add more than I said there. Um, when my daughter called me, I of course I felt great. My daughter felt that I had answers for her. And I have talked to many of the candidates, and I will tell you that I don't have a sense of a lot of, again, going back to the questions, of what they have that represents us. I will unabashedly say there is one candidate that does represent us, and I'm very happy to vote for. Unfortunately, they're not in my district, um, but most of them, I just kind of went, all right, fine, I'll do this. But again, not feeling good about it. I also, and Marwan, you always wait for me to like put my foot in it. So here it is. Um, I struggle with the messaging of we need to turn the House Democrat because it will overturn the reverses in Roe versus Wade or whatever, or the economy or whatever. Um, you're right. I am old. I am old enough to remember that we have had a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate, and nothing got done. So that lie is a promise that I don't believe will be fulfilled. History has told me it won't be fulfilled. Too many people that have too many agendas that do not have anything to do with humanity, which again goes back to why we want to teach people to come together, to reach out, to be ambassadors, to bring their neighborhoods together, to create grassroots networks, because it's the people who are going to drive the change, not the politicians. And I will go
Mhm.
back and say this again. I say this almost every week now. When has that ever happened, that the politicians do something without the people pushing them? Even if you have not seen it, someone is pushing them. So we need to come together and push them. And that's just the reality.
I will say, um, first, I believe that I was saying on the show yesterday that I won't say that people have a civic duty to vote, right? They have a right being a citizen of this country, and as such, you don't have to, right? That's part of it. That's your right. Um, and so I just encourage people to vote, whether it's you know for this or for that, or not to vote at all, because that's also a vote, right? Your vote
Yep.
counts even when you don't vote. And for me, I'm going to share. I voted for 6 males, 3 females, 5 Democrats, and 3 Republicans. And there are elements that I like on both sides, right? And so there isn't I am not a party line person. I also don't vote, how do I say it? We'll use abortion, right? So
Mhm.
abortion is a big trigger issue for folks. I'm not a single topic voter, right? So it would take,
Nope.
you know, abortion and employment and education, and it would have to line up all the way down for me to say, okay, I'm going this way on that. Where it would be a party line thing. So I'm not a single issue voter. So I pull away from that and resist that. Yeah, I do agree with your sentiment. When Democrats under the first term of Obama had the House, the presidency, and the Senate, I didn't think a lot got done. Right. Uh, the reverse of that, when Trump was in office, he got a lot done in the beginning. Right. And while it was somewhat serendipitous, he was able to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices. And so you've got to, if you're gonna win, it's like do what you say you're gonna do, and don't waffle. But that's a whole nother thing. Uh, but
But do they
I'm
really ever say
encouraged.
that they're going to do anything?
I think some
That's
do.
my
I think some
yeah.
do. But I think what ends up happening is, I think there's a lot of good people. I sound like Trump now. There's good people on both sides, and there are good people on both sides. I think what happens is someone wants to go and change the world, and they run for office. And when they get in there, they run across this machine, and they can't overcome the machine, and they get sucked up into the machine. So either they get spit out the other end, they leave, or they stay. Maybe they stay a second term and they're like, okay, maybe I can get some more done. I know what's going on now, and I'm going to try. Um, and then
6 weeks. 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
I worked with a political operative, a Republican a political operative a few years ago on a project I was working on, and got some really interesting insight from him. He said that it takes 6 weeks for the capital to corrupt people generally.
Wow.
6 weeks.
Well, and you know what? I think even corruption might be a tough word. I almost feel like there's so much political pressure as a new person coming in. And it's like, hey, glad you got elected, right? And if you get the support of the party, right? You have the endorsement of the Democratic Party. Look, we helped you to get here, and this is how things are done. So,
Yep.
toe the line, or you're going to be out there by yourself. You're not going to do anything for your folks. We're going to, go against the things that you push forward, and
And
you're
you'll
going to get
never
out of
get
here.
a and you'll never get a committee assignment. So here, yeah, serendipitous on Trump's part. But here's another thing: he was working for a base. It was a very clear, though very narrowly defined base, and he everything he did was on that base, which was pushing an agenda for that base. And so, therefore, a lot of things got done because it was a very clear agenda for a very specific, narrowly defined base.
Well, but for the base, right? They believe that he was effective. So it'd be nice
Yeah,
for all the people
but the
that are
majority the
elected.
majority of us got caught flat-footed because we didn't know that was going to be that's really what was going to be the outcome of that. We expected the same old that we've seen, where somebody would get in office and not do anything. And here we go. And then all of us were shocked. And then, outrage
But that's a
came and all the
testament
rest
to
of it.
Trump, right?
That's a
That would be a
testament to
testament to
how,
Trump.
yep. And the fact that he was working for a very small base. And it's also a testament to the fact that we can't get our shit together and come together on anything
No,
because
no.
we're all in boxes.
But his base and he were able to do that, right? He said, I'm going to do these things for you. And for his base, he did that. I mean, you
Yep.
have to acknowledge
With a
the
lot of
facts.
with a lot of historical precedent. Fascism
Well,
has been a successful tool for a minority for millennia.
well,
That's
hold
why
on.
it's still around.
Let's back away from that, right? Let's back away from fascism. Let's talk about the fact that there was this narrow base that you laid out here,
Yep,
and he ran, and everybody else, what you were saying from your words was, well, we thought he was just going to get in, and he's a celebrity, and he wasn't going to do anything, and he actually did the stuff that he said or attempted, right?
yep,
And so the base was very satisfied in what he got done, right? So
yep,
fascism or all these other, terminologies aside, right? He did what he set out to do and what his people elected him to do, if that's how you want to look at it. So
yep.
what is the problem with the other side, whether it's Republicans that weren't on Trump's side or Democrats or independents not being able to do what it is that they said they wanted to do, right?
Well, let's understand that his base did not elect him completely. It wasn't just his base because there aren't enough of them to have elected him. The other people that elected him were people who saw the Democratic Party put someone forward who was not going to represent them in such an egregious way. And the other people were looking at it saying, this is just same old, and we need something different. So they voted for Trump. And those are the people who were shocked when they got something that was actually active and to so many heinous.
Well, that's
So
we had to agree to disagree on that. And I'm
yeah,
not saying that I'm
The Democratic Party fell flat on their face in that election. And I don't think many people would argue that point.
and why were so many people disenfranchised with the Democratic Party to defect and
Same
vote
old,
for
same
Trump in
old.
the first place?
Same old, same old. They were not being represented. The truth is, God, I mean, here we go again. You're just going to ask me to put my foot right in the hole, aren't you? Okay, the
I don't know
Democratic
if people can
Party.
see me smiling. It's just like ding ding. Go ahead.
So just don't put any more of those bungee sticks in there. They hurt. Um, all right. So it is an absolute truth, and this is one of the greatest strengths of the Republican Party, in absolute truth, that many of the Democrats, because they're so urban metropolis focused, do not pay attention to the needs of the rural or the poor, because the Democrats tend to work with affluent people and the affluency. They have this idea that they sell, and it disenfranchises a majority of the people. The Republicans also disenfranchise a majority of the people, but they sell it like they care. And that's been the difference between it. It's a marketing issue, really. And the Democrats tend to be elitist, and it's just the right word for it. They tend to appear to be elitist, and they don't deal with people, and they don't look at human issues.
Tend to appear. Well,
Again, am I going to demonize the party or the people? I'm saying that there is an appearance and a reality to that. But I know a whole bunch of Democrats. I know a whole lot of Republicans that I could not say that about as a person.
right. So
And you just
again,
admitted you voted for both sides too.
yeah.
Okay, there's a question of what?
Mhm.
Is there a need for clarification for Lucia?
So don't agree with that, Mark. Which part, Mark? Oh, which part, Rev? Because you
Anyway,
got to kick it now. Which
okay.
part do you disagree with, Lucia? All of it?
Okay. Well, you're welcome to disagree. That's fine. And that's part of it. I mean, the thing is, do you disagree with the fact that the Democrats appear to be elitist? That's how the Republicans have been painting them for 4 decades, and to some degree, they do it to themselves. Um, the fact that Republicans have been selling themselves as the party of the man for decades and have been getting away with it, even though that people tend to vote for them and find out that it's not in their best interests. I mean, this is just data, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reason that people voted for Trump to a great degree in the first time around. And then they found out what they really got and decided that that was not going to happen again. Now people are unhappy, and one of the things they're unhappy about, I wanted to say this earlier, is I hear a lot about the economy. Happy to sit down with you and talk about that. Um, Economies are like dinosaurs. They start changing 4, 5, 6 years before you see something. Um, so blaming the economy on Biden, blaming the economy on Trump, blaming the economy on Obama, it's not how it works. Economies are in a movement long before a president takes office. Now, there will be bumps and hiccups in the economy, yeah. But where we are now has been working for 5, 10, 12 years.
But isn't that the game, where,
Absolutely.
let's say a Democrat takes office, right? And they blame the bad on the Republican office, and then they claim the good. And then when it flips and the Republicans take office, right, they take the credit for the things that are good, and then they blame the Democratic Party. So it's just this circle that continues to go. But if you look at the through line, you can look at the deficit that just continues to grow exponentially, no matter who's
In
running the
office,
White House.
exactly so. So I'm just saying that making that you were saying you don't vote for particular issues, making that an issue to vote against Biden. And while I think somebody was saying, I was watching a show earlier this morning. Um, okay, Lucia, this is not the format for this. I will be happy to have a conversation with you. We can go have coffee, and I will share points with you. But you can't do it here in a 1 hour show with Marwan and I. Okay. Um, but that's the part of the problem is we don't vote. We vote for things that people put up as a problem. Oh, somebody was saying that Biden isn't one of the greatest presidents. I don't have an opinion on that one or the other. I think he's done some good things. I think he's done some things that are problematic, but it's not an easy job.
Wait, who said what about Biden?
Oh, I was saying somebody said earlier when I was having a conversation today that Biden is not a great president, and
Oh,
that
I agree with that.
yeah, and I said, he's a president, and I don't think any of us can really measure that job unless we sat in that seat for a while. And there's a lot of things that go on in that seat. And I'm not excusing him. I'm just saying there's a lot of things we don't see that go on, and for any president and all presidents.
I don't know. When you can tell me that I'm not black if I don't vote Democrat, I've got a problem right from the gate
Yeah,
with that.
I agree with you. Does that mean
But
if I
I,
vote Democrat, I'm black? Wait a minute. Um,
right,
Sorry,
but that
bad
dog
joke.
whistle was directed toward us,
Yeah, I
and
get it.
that's a huge issue. To that end, I can't tell you the last president that I actually had a lot of respect for.
I
Um,
can. I just wrote it down on an intro piece.
so what was your thing about Jimmy Carter? Because he was very polarizing as a president.
He was because he did the right thing most of the time. He did the moral and human thing most of the time. You can't have that in the presidency. So his own party didn't like him very much. But
Hmm.
if you want to talk about somebody who's proven to be a good man,
You'd
the
have to
man is
elaborate on that because I was what year was Carter? 70.
74, 75,
Yeah, I was 2 years
76,
old.
76. Yeah. Yeah. God, I forget how much younger than me you are. Um, yeah. Former nuke, Navy officer, had a peanut farm. So he gave up all interest in the peanut farm to run for president because that was the right thing to do. Um, he made decisions based on what he thought was capable at the time. He made actions, and every time that something went wrong, it became a blow up thing in his face. I mean, we had the Iraq hostage situation at that time. He sent a military operation in to rescue him. It blew up in his face, it blew up in their face. We did not have a military that was capable of doing that. We didn't have the special forces that we have now. You got to remember it was post Vietnam, and a lot of the military was down was downplaying and downsizing. Um, a lot of things that should have been taken care of weren't, and he was a one-term president. But what other president at that you can remember since Jimmy Carter, even before him, that has done so much good for people since
I guess
president
it
leaves
depends
office? And
on.
yeah, president leaves office, you never hear about him. Well, unfortunately, Trump we do, but president leaves office and you never hear about them again. They just kind of fade out into history.
Oh, I see
Carter,
what you're saying. You're saying after they're out of office, what president do you see still doing
good things for people.
philanthropy and doing good work? Yeah, I do see things like Jimmy Carter doing Habitat for Humanity type things and whatnot. I
He's
think he
written four
fell and is
books,
bruised.
and he's written four books, educational books about history. Um, I haven't read any of them, but he's written several books that are well thought of. He is a he's just a good man, and he's done good things, and he tries to make the right decisions. And I can't think of another president that after they've left office, I can remember anything that they've done. Again, except recently.
And I can't really weigh in on that as I was too young for Carter. I think I remember in elementary school, you know, learning about him being a was it peanut farmer. That
Yeah,
was so long ago. But then, other than that,
he was
not
also
too much in
he was also one
education.
of the first nukes in the Navy as we converted to the nuclear fleets.
Hmm.
So yeah, again, that's the one that I had no reservations when I voted for him. And then I had no reservations about the man since then.
Well, one of the things I was going to say was, you're talking about what good have the presidents done for people after. I think that would depend on perception, right? What
Yep.
what people are you talking about? But
I yeah.
to your point, I don't hear a lot from the Bushes or you hear Hillary is constantly doing something. You don't hear too much from Bill Clinton. Um, the Obamas seem pretty quiet right now. Who else has been
Though
president during that
Michelle
time?
has been doing some stuff.
Mhm. Reagan.
He died.
Is that all of them?
Can't hold him. Nixon,
Nixon. Okay.
Reagan. Um, God, at one point I could have named all of the presidents. These days I can't. Too many other things in my brain. Um,
So anyway, you bring
yeah.
that point up to say what? That they should, continue to serve their country after they're done being
No,
president?
we were talking about feeling good about voting for president. You'd said you hadn't felt good. I said, well, I had at least once.
Mm. Got you. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder how you guys feel about that in the chat. Just reading the comments there. Uh, the Rev says with caring part for sure. And yes, like Lucia said, all of it. Lucia says, no, prove it. Here, who said it? If you do want to take a little time and pull that up, I did put on Mark will be down at Cups
Yep.
on Saturday. If you want to meet and have a conversation with them. If it's Fox News, then we are done talking. I blame a great many things on Bush and Trump, not to mention the theft of Gore. And both parties are elitist and don't care about anything but their bank statements. I wanted to kind of build on that last statement and then have you respond also. Uh, and correct me if I'm wrong, and fill me in, audience, if you can enlighten me on this also. When we're looking at the spectrum of how people are, right? You've got the far left, whatever you would call them. Then you have, you know,
Progressives.
progressives. Then you have, what is it?
The
Main
mainstream, what they call centrists, which are actually right in everywhere else in the world.
centrist, but then you have blue dog Democrats, right? Which is even maybe more right than centrist,
They're right in the same area. They just
kind of the
have
same area.
slightly. They're within a couple of inches of each other.
So, what would be the moderate or almost leftist Republicans be called? Do they have a terminology? Do they have a
Blue dog
term?
Democrats.
Blue dog Democrats?
I mean, so you've got the right, which is if you're looking at a sphere,
Well, no, no.
and
Go off my line for me.
okay,
Just go
line. Then,
because we
then you
did the
have a whole
left.
bunch of people over here on the
No, no,
left.
no. Follow me
Eh,
what I'm saying. Follow what
okay.
I'm saying. We've got the far left, right?
hmm
We have progressives. Then we have moderates. Then we have, the blue
Most
dog.
everybody, the majority of everybody else, is right between your knuckles and the tips of your fingers.
No, no. I don't want to know how many people are in there. I'm just
Okay.
classifying them
Oh,
for
okay.
now,
Then they're
right?
just they would call themselves centrist Republicans or
Centrist Republicans,
moderate Republicans is the other term for them.
moderate Republicans. Then what's after moderate Republicans?
MAGA,
So they don't have as many different iterations as Democrats have.
right?
So just basically far right, center, and somewhat left leaning.
Yeah,
But the left has way far left, progressive,
yeah.
moderate, and
Okay.
then kind of
Yeah, and
blue
then
dogs,
theoretically the libertarians are on the right somewhere, and they're
libertarians on the
probably out.
right.
Yeah, they're probably out toward the somewhere around the Tea Party, but before MAGA.
And how about, whoa, that's pretty far. How
hmm
about independents? Where do they lay on that?
Anywhere and everywhere. So the breakdown is that there are about
Hmm.
29% Democrats, 29% Republicans, and everybody else is an independent. So the independents actually are a larger party if they were a party than the right or the Republicans or the Democrats. But they're not a party; they're just independents, which means they could be either way. And whenever you get a survey, they ask, "Do you lean right or do you lean toward Democrats? Or do you lean toward Republicans?"
But here's the thing: Bernie Sanders is an independent, but to me,
He's
I
a
would say he's
progressive.
a Democrat masquerading as an independent.
No, he's a progressive, but he's an independent because the progressives, when Sanders started being an independent, progressives in the Democratic Party did not exist. Now we have progressives in the Democratic Party, but Bernie's been around for a lot longer than they have, and he's been caucusing with the Democratic Party. So yeah, he's more of a Democrat than anything else, but he is an independent because he wants to go way farther than the farthest left of the Democratic Party. And when you look at the politics in the rest of the world, our Democratic Party would be considered conservative virtually everywhere else.
Wait, say that again.
Our Democratic Party would be considered conservative in any other industrial, let's say European country, just to refine that a little bit.
Hmm. Okay.
They are far more liberal than we are. To put a fine point on that, the United Nations has a statement of that everybody deserves shelter as a human right.
Okay.
Can you imagine that being something we would say here? We can't even agree that we have Medicare, medical, as a human right.
So what are we saying if we don't say that?
That people don't have a right to that they have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They don't have a right to shelter. If you can't afford it, work harder. Put up an article the other day saying, a lot of people can't afford to live, even working two jobs and 80, 90, 100 hours, and they're selling their blood to make the extra difference. I don't know what bootstraps you can do to offset the fact that it's all being manipulated.
But I think what you were saying before is many on both sides are keeping the status quo going.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's a machine. The machine keeps moving, and there's no check and balance from the people to push it the direction we need it to go to be more human. We're back in our boxes of socialism, communism, democracy, capitalism. And many people think democracy and capitalism are linked at the hips. Like you can't have one without the other. And one is an economic system, one is a governmental system. They are not linked in any way, shape, or form except in our heads. And we have unregulated capitalism, which is a problem. And I should point out we're over time.
All right. Well, we got to go just for a few seconds more. I wanted to show people this. What were you calling kind of middle of the road Republicans,
Moderates.
moderates, and what's like kind of left leaning Republicans?
Um, I have no idea. I mean, the only thing I've ever heard is moderate Republicans for people in the center. My best friend for 40 years is a Republican, and he and I have voted the same way on most issues.
Hmm. I try to pull this up for people to see. The Rev says, I think the ex-president should be active, very active. I think they would make great ambassadors. I think we should all outlaw all political parties and establish ranked choice voting across the board. Can you explain ranked choice voting, Mark?
Uh, how many okay, it doesn't matter what party you are, you vote, and whoever gets the most votes is first the people who get the second rating votes, at least the way I understand it. The people who get the second most votes are in there. So let's say you president would be the most votes, the vice president would be the second most votes. But there are other ways that I've heard that put out, but that's the way I've understood it. What's this?
So what I was trying to do was just kind of make that timeline to
Okay.
see, because I'm trying to gain an understanding, right? And so me holding my hands out, I don't think was very effective. But we have Democrats on the left, radical left, progressive, moderate, blue dog Democrats. Then on the right, you have moderates, MAGA, far right. So
Well,
you were talking about,
mega is far right.
I don't know. I think
Well, I don't
there's
know.
some.
Is there something farther out there than MAGA?
I think there could be.
Okay.
I think there could be. Um, so you were talking about some percentages on where some folks might lean. Where did you say? Where
Okay.
did you think?
The last I looked, and it changes from election to election, but the last I looked, I believe the Democrats were about 29%.
Hmm.
Republicans were about 29%, maybe 28%. Um, and then independents make up all people identified as independent make up all the rest.
29%
Mhm.
Democrat, 28% Republican, and you said the rest is everyone else.
Independent is what it falls under. I mean, there are independents. There's also libertarians. There's um, Green Party and all of that. And I don't have the breakdown on those in front of me, and I haven't actually looked for a couple of years. But that seemed to be about what I remember. And
And where does the
libertarians
Green Party?
more under the Democrats. They would be on the far right of the Democrats or the far left of the Democrats.
Oh, even further than the
Yeah,
Democrats.
the radical left would be the Green Party would be kind of under the radical left. Too progressive, they would kind of blend over those two lines.
Okay, and then
But
where
they
do
don't.
independents go?
Independents are between the two parties.
Mhm.
Just in the right there would be independents. And there's about let's see, that would be 30 and 30 minus 3. That's 60 minus 3 would be 57. So 40 some odd 43% of voters identify as independents.
Do independents have a color? Let's
Um,
make them purple.
okay,
That's a little too dark, but okay. So everyone else here in the middle,
is about
would you say
43
50,
is about 43%.
43%? And then okay, all right, I got you. All right,
Now libertarians and Green Party are not Democrats and Republicans, but I don't know what the percentage breakdown on that would be. But they fall kind of loosely in those categories.
got you. So would libertarian be closer to far right?
Uh, I get in an argument with a libertarian. They would not say them. They would not say that.
Okay, because they're like deregulation, right?
Yeah,
It's
they have
kind of their
free enterprise,
platform.
free enterprise. No, and they would prefer no government. What was it that some politician once said? He wants a government small enough he can choke it to death in the bathtub, or drown it in the bathtub.
Wow. Okay.
So
Alrighty then. Just make that a little lighter. Okay. All right. So I mean, this is like I'm learning, and it's good to kind of have perspective. And I know when we have conversations and we're talking, it's like, what are you saying right now? So I'm hoping this kind of helps a little bit.
yeah,
And well, don't have proof to show that these numbers are here. Uh, that might be
you
awesome if you
you
can
can
find.
you can look it up online and just ask what are the breakdowns of political parties, and you'll have all kinds of studies about that. That's how I do it. Is I just go out and look for the actual source material from the universities that do this work.
So if you find one, would you send it to me so I can
Sure.
I can post it up there? So and the reason why I wanted to do this was to because the whole point of this is how do we get to working together, right? As we can see in the chat with Lucia and Pastor Ellington, right? This is very triggering and people
Mhm.
have big disagreements, right, on what people have done on either side of the aisle. Um, but how do we move forward from that? And so
We
that's where my
we make
interest lies.
we make a human agreement to leave this in the box.
But to leave what in the box?
Leave the political parties and our politics in the box, because what we're talking about in our humanity, I think we've already talked about the fact that politics has very little to do with our humanity and our human needs.
But isn't part of humanity acknowledging past transgressions that have not been acknowledged yet?
Eventually, yes, but we have to come to agreements about being human before we can even have that conversation.
See, and I think where the problem comes in for me is what happens is you say, okay, well, you know what, we can deal with that, but we have bigger fish to fry, right? And so what many boxes that I fit into, what that box is told is, we just need to get past this, right? And we got bigger fish to fry. And once we start working on those things, well, there's really no reason to go back
I
and deal with that, right? We're so much further down here.
No, I don't agree that we don't need to deal with it, and I don't think that there are bigger fish to fry. I think the big fish to fry is that we have to learn how to have human communications together and look at what's important to humans. And that will be part of what's important to humans. I don't think it should be left behind. I think that conversation needs to be had. I think that we just need to find a way to come together to have it. And so I'm talking, if you're building a building, I'm way down here on the foundation laying rebar. I'm not trying to put the walls up yet. I'm not even there. I'm digging the hole to lay the foundation in, and I'm tying rebar and trying to get to the foundation so the foundation is strong on which we can build.
All right. So let me
Your piece needs to be, once we lay the foundation, let's start figuring out what the base is going to look like, and that's part of the base that we have to figure out. We
so
have
I'm
to
gonna
take
leave
care of the transgressions.
let me leave you
Okay.
and the audience with this question. If you slap the shit out of me and my face is still burning and you're telling me, "Hey, we just need to build." How do I do that and my face is still burning and emotionally I'm still pissed off from that transgression? How do I build? And you're telling me, "You know what?" And I'm not saying you, but the person who slapped me is telling me either we got bigger fish to fry, we can deal with that later, pull your big boy pants up, or, can't we all just get along and move past it?
Yeah, and none of those things are anything that I believe. Well,
I'm not saying you
I
are.
believe, I know, I'm just saying, I think that we have to find a way to come together. So, as if a guy comes and starts slapping the shit out of you, 10 of us grab his ass and throw it down and say no. And then we go and make sure you're okay and that you're
But I'm
taken care
saying
of.
I've already been slapped,
I
right?
know.
So
And
it's already
and
happened,
yeah.
and it's like, "Hey,
And
we need to build." And it's like, "Hey, slap the shit out of me. It hurts." No, no, no. We need to build right now. This is bigger.
yeah. And no, the building I'm talking about is addressing those transgressions. But we have to come together. It's not building, it's just connecting. We can't get to building. We can't even get to building until we lay the foundation of connection. And in that connection, we have to address the grievances.
So is what you're saying is the foundation is addressing that.
Yes.
That is the cement.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
The
Okay.
puzzle pieces are the foundation, and the puzzle pieces are understanding the transgressions that have happened and addressing them as we move forward. But if you and I can't talk and come to a place where we can trust each other to have that conversation will never be happening. And someone will be saying, well, we got to build these walls, but you're building on sand, man. It's going to fall down. Let's connect and learn about each other and figure out where the pain points are and address them together.
So that we can build forward.
Yeah.
I wonder if the asteroid or aliens were going to attack, how would humanity react?
Panicking. You remember that picture of the woman going, why didn't you tell me? That's how we would react.
All right. I know that we are super over and I needed to go a little bit longer. I wanted to create that chart. I'm going to save that. Um, but this is a hard conversation, right? But I think these conversations are worth having. And part of the issue is we don't want to have the conversation, right? So and it devolves into, well, you are being part of the victim Olympics, right? Or you're saying that you're being oppressed. And there are issues that have not been resolved that need to be resolved. And it doesn't matter whether it's race or gender or class or whatever the case may be. There are issues that we have to deal with. And I think you are correct in the saying that for those that would say, "Hey, look, let's just move forward," we can't because whatever we build, it is not
It's
going
going
to
to fall
be on
apart.
a solid foundation,
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be built on it's going to be built on landfill or sand, and it's
It would
going to
just
fall
be a
down.
facade. Yeah, it
Yeah,
might look pretty, but it's not solid and it's bound to fail. So we have to go forward together in a way of true unity, which means resolving through it. And
yeah,
so with our children, with our loved ones, we apologize, we acknowledge where we've done wrong, and we try to make right what we've done wrong. And then we move forward and we don't make the mistakes of the past. So I think those things have to happen in whatever that looks like. But those are the conversations. And I think that's what you're going to get out of the workshop. So I do implore you to check out the workshops. I put those up there really quick. I'm freezing today. Again, that workshop is going to be this Saturday, 1 p.m. to 2:30 at the ML King Library downtown. Please RSVP at facebook.com/Rose Echo Projects. And before then, come on down and have coffee at Cups, delicious place from 9 to 11:30, and Cups is on 4th and Pacific. So hope to see you there.
and I have heard a rumor that the Cups employees will be wearing blue Kids Have Resiliency Project shirts.
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever's in the middle, the 29 on the far left, the 27 on the far right, the 43 in the middle. I don't even think that the ones in the middle are together. And
No,
so
not
work on the
not even.
ones that can establish their commonalities,
Yep.
start pulling people from the left and the right to the center, and not into the center politically speaking, but into the center
Of our
of being a
humanity,
group.
of our
Yeah,
humanity.
building one big box. All right. Well, we will be back in 45 minutes with our housing discussion. Thank you again, Mark, for being vulnerable. Right, that's hard to do, and so I appreciate you for
Oh,
that.
I do have one last thing,
Sure.
Lucia. I do not watch Fox News. All right, just to let you know. Um, and most of the stuff that I find by looking for source material. And again, I look at research papers, and I read an enormous amount of stuff, and I talk to good analysts.
I do watch Fox News. And MSNBC and CNN, and I consume information from a lot of different places. And I think there is definitely for those that would say that the Fox News is really bad and evil. I think there's some really bad and evil on left
MSNBC
leaning
too.
media also. But I think if you have the power of discernment, as I kind of comb through the Kitsap Sun article on what happened with the kids out in Mason County, I think you can look at it from an intellectually intelligent eye and decipher what's opinion, what's fact, and really try to understand what ideas are being said there. So I think there's something in it to listen to. I don't think you should get lost in the sauce on either end. But in negotiation is about understanding what both parties need, not just your party. You got to understand both sides. So anyway,
And
for that,
the
I will
same is
leave.
true of our humanity.
Yeah, facts, facts. That's my negotiations classroom talk for today. All right, everyone. For Mark Boatwright-Frost, I am Marwan Cameron. This is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. We'll see you next Wednesday, and we'll see you in about 40 minutes. All right, have a good one.